Greetings, Squadron Officers, School, students, and faculty. I am Captain Sterling D. Scales of the Kansas Air National Guard. I am assigned to the 190th Air Refueling Wing, Forbes Field, Topeka, Kansas. My primary job is Aircraft Commander Mobility Pilot on the KC-135. My secondary or my additional duty would be Chief of Local Scheduling. This is where I schedule local training flights for all aircrew members assigned to my unit. I work with maintenance, support organizations, and other flying wings that require air refueling training. For my assignment today, I am to provide you all with an example of how embedded organizational culture contributed to the ethical problems that led to organizational ethical failures. My example is from December 2017. Three commanders from the 47th Flying Training Wing, Laughlin Air Force Base, Del Rio, Texas, were removed from command. The wing commander, ops group commander, and a squadron commander. The official report raised concerns about lapse in judgment, good order and discipline, and it criticized its absentee leadership for failing to correct unsafe situations and express concerns about the alcohol culture at Laughlin Air Force Base. Some culture embedding mechanisms that contributed to the organizational ethical failures were: number one, what leaders paid attention to, measured, and controlled on a regular basis. Number two, how leaders reacted to critical incidents and organizational crisis. And then number three, organizational rites and rituals. Let's talk about how those culture embedding mechanisms correlated to the commanders being removed of command. Yolitz stated that what leaders pay attention to, measure, and control on a regular basis is one of the most important mechanisms. The leaders of the 47th failed to properly pay attention to or control the alcohol use of their members. The report goes on to say there was an underlying feeling that overconsumption of alcohol was part of the Air Force heritage and only required mitigating, not correcting. The report did mention that Laughlin had a designated driver program in place to help mitigate excessive drinking. It does not report that commanders or any leaders of the wing saw excessive drinking as a problem that needed further attention. A report says that the officers were relieved from command because they did not take appropriate actions to stop and correct incidents of officer misconduct, including alcohol consumption and disrespectful treatment of the Air Force pilot training students. Another way the mechanisms correlated to the failure is how leaders reacted to organizational crisis. Squadron and flight commanders of the 47th reported a general culture of alcohol drinking, but said they believed it was professional, moderate, and responsible, so they didn't see any issues from the alcohol that was being consumed at the wing. The last way the mechanisms correlated to the failure is through organizational rites and rituals. The consumption of alcohol in association with training milestones appeared to glamorize the overindulgence of alcohol. Milestones consist of track night, drop night, naming ceremony, and graduation night. These rituals have been around since the inception of Air Force pilot training. It was believed that excessive drinking was the norm for these type of events. So that just goes on to say that each individual that speaks about pilot training would associate excessive drinking with these type of rituals. So moving on now to the recommendations I will offer these leaders of the flying training wing. As stated in the article, Dynamic Followership, organizations must help people break old behavior habits and establish new ones. That not only takes much more time than conventional training programs, it also requires an individualized approach for success. Yolitz asserts the things leaders pay attention to will evoke culture embedding mechanisms, and these embedding mechanisms will create the climate of an organization. It is the climate that would influence the actions of the individuals in the organizations. Two recommendations I would offer the leaders to help mitigate and or change the organizational climate are: number one, leaders must mentor young CGOs to be the future they want to see. If they want to create a culture of where the traditions can continue, because that is a must, but the drinking has to be changed. They have to start educating their CGOs on what it takes to make that happen. The CGOs are the ones that interact the most with the students. They are the ones the younger generations are more likely to listen to and follow. Sometimes people react to change better when it is one of their peers that they trust versus a higher ranking individual. According to the article, Dynamic Followership, leaders must train future leaders to be great followers. Leaders must ingrain in the junior officers their vision of a collective culture. The junior officers will be the ones to implement the plan in a way that resonates with other officers. So number 2 option that I will give the leaders. Leaders need to improve their emotional intelligence. Be more of a transformation leader. As spoken to in the emotional intelligence article, it says that the transformational leadership model emphasizing the leader's communication of a vision and development of followers. The core appeal of the leader's vision must be emotional and value-based. The followers' buy-in to the leader's program depends on the authenticity of the message, which in turn depends on the perceived genuineness and trustworthiness of the leader. Thus, effective followers exhibit loyalty to the boss by endorsing organizational videos, visions, and priorities. If leaders are genuine in their visions and truly have everyone's best interest at heart, then the leader's priorities will become the followers' priorities.